Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. We're on our United show today, Devil's Advocate, and today I am joined by a fantastic panel here today, both full of Liverpool and Manchester United fans, as we look ahead to the biggest fixture in English football, Liverpool versus Manchester United. Top of the table clash between, at the moment, the top two teams in the Premier League, as the league table states at the moment, and as always, the two biggest clubs in England. That goes without saying. So to the right of me today here, I'm joined by Mark Biggs from All for United. I'm joined by, onto the right of him, by Kevin Kennedy, weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast regular. Below me, I'm joined by Keith Plunkett from the LFC Day Trippers podcast. And to the right of Keith, we are joined by Jack Doherty, currently plays for Wexford FC and former Ipswich town winger. And I grew up with him all my life. And I can tell you one thing, lads, he's a die-hard Liverpool fan also. And so we are joined by a fantastic and established panel here this evening. So, it's great to chat to the lads here. So, I suppose, as I said just at the top of the show, this is the biggest game in English football. And when you think about rivalries in English football, you obviously have your North London derbies, you have your Manchester derby, you have the Merseyside derby, but there's nothing like Manchester United versus Liverpool. These two teams, juggernauts of English football. Now, obviously, on United side, we haven't been a juggernaut in the last 7 or 8 years since Sir Alex Ferguson has left the club. But as always, this is a massive, massive game for both sets of fans. For the form book just goes out the window when it comes to both these two teams when they play each other. But I'm just going to come to both sides, the Liverpool side and also the Manchester United side, in terms of how they're feeling coming into today's game. Mark, sorry, not today's game, Sunday's game. Mark, I'm just going to come to you first. This is the biggest Liverpool versus Manchester United game, though, since 2009, because last time the Liverpool versus Manchester United game had this much significance when these two teams were going for the title, a long time ago. For you, how are you feeling about this clash against Liverpool? Because this is a team, obviously, who are, I think, at the moment 67 games unbeaten at home at Anfield, and this Anfield fans are not. It seems to be a fortress for Liverpool, and they're the strongest team, nearly in Europe at the moment, in terms of home form. How are you feeling coming into this game on Sunday?
Yeah, I don't think there's a rivalry like it, and it's really good to, I'm not going to say that we're back in it at all. I'm not taking anything for granted, but I think it's great that there's a little bit more to it. I feel that in the last couple of years, whilst the rivalry is there and the games are always exciting, I think from a United perspective, we haven't been overly confident. Now, I'm not saying that we go in confident this weekend, but it's nice to know that we've got the potential to try and get a result. Um, I've said to you earlier, I feel that Liverpool are the much better team. I think on paper they have got the much better team, but as I say, with United sitting where they are at the moment and with the confidence they've got, it's good to perhaps put up a bit of a fight. It's a difficult one for me. I mean, I have no idea how it's going to go, obviously, but it's going to be great. I mean, I've had a roller coaster of emotions, I think, over the last few days. Excitement, a little bit anxious. These are the two most illustrious teams in England, and rightly so. And it will be a fantastic game. It's just a shame that the fans can't be there. And with regards to that, actually, United have got a good away form, and I do feel at the moment. Probably going to shoot myself in the foot a bit, but I do feel at the moment that there are a lot of points going to away teams, and I really hope that that will help us. But as I say, Liverpool, they are fantastic. They've got a great home record, and it's going to be very difficult, but very excited.
Yeah, I share your sentiment, Mark. Look, it's a massive, massive game, and when you consider Liverpool's qualities, what they've done in the last kind of 3 or 4 years under Jurgen Klopp, when you consider their Champions League, two Champions League finals, to their charges at the league title, even in the season they didn't win it, they did a high points tally, doing high 90s. You look at just their overall pedigree that Jurgen Klopp is after creating over a 5 year span. We have to, I think, put rivalry aside. They have built something very good in the last 5 years. And it's shown when you give a manager time and you buy into a project and you put confidence into a project, what I can actually achieve. Like when you look at
That
Liverpool compared to other teams, when you look at Liverpool compared to the other teams like City, United, Chelsea, their net spend compared to all them teams is a lot lower. They've put in time, like they've put in a lot of effort into building what they have now. This wasn't done overnight. And I think from our perspective, we're going forward as a club too. But I think when you put rivalry aside, you kind of have to appreciate kind of what they've done. And when you look coming up against a team like this, 67 games unbeaten at home. Yes, we fantastic away form, but it's just it's a tough task this weekend, and by no stretch of the imagination, we say this is going to be an easy game, not a hope. But what we can say is we're good away form, unbeaten 22 away games in the Premier League. Our last away defeat was actually at Anfield in the Premier League. So like, look, hopefully that's an omen that we can break this weekend in terms of that. But I do share your sentiment. I am really
just to
excited about the game
quickly
because there's no rivalry like Liverpool versus United.
Yeah, just to quickly put something else in there. You're absolutely right. I mean, they ran very, very well. I as a manager, Klopp is fantastic. I really do like him, and I see a lot of similarities between himself and Ferguson. And you're also absolutely right. They have been a benchmark for other clubs, and hopefully United are now trying to sort of take that sort of approach and structure. But yeah, they're certainly a good team. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. And Kevin, for you, again, like I'll come to the same point as I did, but Mark, obviously from a Manchester United perspective, we're 22 games unbeaten away from home. So our last defeat was at Anfield, last season in January last season. How are you feeling coming into this game on Sunday?
Well, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because it's been so long since they've lost there, 2017, I believe, isn't it? And I mean,
Yeah,
just as today, by coincidence, I think Wayne Rooney actually scored the winner for us in 2015 when we actually won last time there. So it was it's been a hell of a long time. Now, away games without the fans there, like a game like this, the biggest in England, is it as the is the atmosphere going to be as good? The atmosphere around the game, I'm sure, will. Atmosphere in the stadium obviously isn't. So that would probably work in Man United's favour this time. But it's a really hard call. This just the record that they have at Anfield is formidable. It really is.
yeah, like it's a tough task for anybody. Like you look even Liverpool, like it does take domestic situations out of it. Like even in the biggest teams in Europe, like the Barcelona that have went to Anfield, Bayern Munich have all went to Anfield in recent years, and like it's a tough task for anybody going there. So like when you take even domestic games out of it, and you even look on the European stage, other teams outside of England have struggled to go there too. So it's a hard place to go. Tight pitch, they play with high intensity. Man United, we're going to have to be on our game this weekend. We do have to be. We can't players can't be passengers. Too many times over the last couple of years, we've had players who are passengers in midfield, and you look at Liverpool's intensity. Yeah, we have to match that in the weekend. I think that's absolutely vital. Keith, for yourselves, obviously from a Liverpool perspective, again I'd reiterate like 67 games unbeaten at home. You haven't lost a home game since 2017. You've been flying though in the last kind of 4 years on all fronts. In terms of all competitions, kind of how are you feeling coming into this game? Because it is the biggest game in English football, and like usually with this game, Anfield would be hopping. The cop would be like the atmosphere would be something else. For Liverpool United, Liverpool fans would be up for it. Like, what's your perspective on this weekend's game?
Yeah, before I start, I'll apologise. I'm doing this out in the hallway and the lights flashing on and off. It's on a motion sensor, so it's a bit of a nightmare. If you see flashing lights, just ignore it.
I thought you had a halo.
No, not at all, not at all. Yeah, look, it's the biggest game in English football, and certainly when we talk to lads, Scouse lads, they'll put the Merseyside derby on a par for it. But when you're based in Ireland, it's Liverpool Man U. all the way, because that's who the fan base is predominantly. Wherever you are in Ireland, it's predominantly Liverpool or it's Manchester United. So this is the big one, and it's interesting you say it's the biggest one since 2009. I enjoyed last year's one at Anfield, to be honest with you, because it sort of crowned Liverpool winning the league, because that was when the fans start singing, "Now you're going to believe us, we're going to win the league," because it was another nail in a coffin of a pretender. Now, this is a big game on Sunday, and it's a big game because under normal circumstances, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful, I done the pod before with you guys before the Spurs game, and I said the same thing. I don't want to be disrespectful before being very disrespectful to Spurs. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but Manchester United, when people say are in a false position on top of the league, I can sort of understand where that is, because they're there because the other teams have fallen back down. Now, Manchester United are playing very well this season. I don't think they're playing great, to be totally honest. I think they're getting a lot of lucky decisions, but you earn your decisions. Liverpool fans, I think, are making too much out of the poor form of Liverpool, the great form of Man U. There's not much in it, in my opinion. But when it comes to Sunday, it's all going to rely on who Liverpool line up at centre-back to see if Liverpool have any chance in this game. And that is the worry. That's been the problem all season with Liverpool, is the centre-back issue. And it's not using injury as an excuse, but to lose your two centre-backs to season-ending injury so early, and then to have Joel Matip, who's fine third-choice centre-back, but he suddenly becomes your senior centre-back and he's made out of Kinder Bueno, then it's hard to get through games. If we go into this game with Reece Williams or Nat Phillips at centre-half or Jordan Henderson, I think it plays into United's hands a bit. But I will be very interested to see how Man U approach this, because will Solskjaer attack? Will Solskjaer do his usual and sit back and hope to hit on the counter-attack? What will his lineup be? Do you know? And that's, I can be balls out and cocky here and say I think Liverpool win this game, but I think it all depends on the lineup, and it depends on the approach of United. And it's a weird position, because for the last few years Liverpool have been on the ascendancy, and this time it genuinely is just the Liverpool just don't have the bodies at the moment to be challenging. Man U are playing as good as they can play, in my opinion. I don't think there's too much of an improvement they can make. And again, that's not a dig, that they're playing well. Liverpool can up it, and I'm hoping they can up it on Sunday. From what they've been garbage the last while. I'm not trying to make out that we've been the same Liverpool. We can go through the team and say the centre-backs haven't been great. Trent Alexander-Arnold hasn't been great. The midfield are running on fumes at the moment. The forwards haven't been great. Too many of the Liverpool team haven't been great. But this is the sort of game that you can pick it up for. I think Liverpool will show up on Sunday, but I'll be just very interested to see who kicks off a centre-back.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because Mark just popped into our private chat there. Is Joel Matip back this weekend?
Back training tonight. Been training, pictures of him training tonight.
Do you think he'll start? Do you think
I think he will. Oh yeah, I think he will, because Joel Matip, for all that he's made out of biscuits, he's the type of player that can plug straight back in and perform to a high level. He'll probably get injured, but he can perform at a high level. Fabinho is a player who, when Fabinho picks up an injury, it takes him weeks to get the momentum back. Weeks, could be out for 2 weeks, and it'll take him 3 weeks to get back. Do you know that way when he's back playing? Matip is the opposite. Matip can slot straight in, which is a rare quality. But it just depends on whether they'll risk him. I don't think they're going to be putting pictures of him and Liverpool putting out tweets, look who's back. I don't think they're going to do that if there's no fear of him playing. Yesterday, I didn't think he'd make it. Klopp was very sort of negative in the press conference. Today, I'm thinking he might play and has to play. I think needs must.
Yeah, I think it's vital for him to play centre back, because I'd kind of I'd worry in a sense, for if he was like not playing, and maybe you throw one of the young lads in, and maybe you get an Edison Cavani in him who's an experienced striker, and for a young centre back, that may be something that maybe Man United can maybe exploit in that sense. But like I think Joel Matip playing is a big boost for Liverpool because he's an experienced centre half, and he's kind of one of them centre halves, so kind of old fashioned centre half. Do you know what I mean? Like a no nonsense defender. In that regard. So I think I think for Liverpool that's a massive boost if he's back.
The only thing, like, if Cavani plays, Cavani's the type of player I've no problem with one of them young fellas playing against, because he's not quick. And the problem for Williams and Phillips is that I'd probably match them in 100 metres, and I'm not matching many in 100 metres. Do you know what I mean? They're not quick over the ground. I'd be more worried if United line up with, Martial, Rashford, and I think it'll be Dan James. I think Dan James is going to play. I think Solskjaer is going to absolutely cack the, and he's going to just go pace. I think that's what it'll be. And I think in that, I'd be more worried for one of the young lads up against a quick centre forward than I would Cavani. I think Cavani comes on after 60 for United. I don't think he'll start.
Yeah, you're probably right. Like, there's a lot of talk around the United fan base at the moment that we're going to get maybe the 4-2-3-1 we got at Leeds United, and Ollie goes for maybe the high energy approach where he goes with Dan James, Rashford on the wings, Martial up top, Bruno behind them. There's talk that maybe McFred come back in, to kind of maybe match Liverpool's energy in midfield, because obviously Liverpool have like Henderson and Wijnaldum in there who are high energy midfield players. So like when you look at it in that respect, it's something that maybe could happen. In terms of the systems that the teams play. Jack, for yourself, like how are you feeling coming into this weekend? Like, obviously, I was going to kind of spin the question differently to you, like, because obviously you play professional football yourself, and like you've played in these kind of games where like you've played with fans there, and you also like you've played with no fans. For you, like in terms of like from Liverpool perspective, this game being at Anfield and there's no fans there, even though this is a big game, do you think Liverpool players are going to get up for this game, differently to maybe what they would if the fans were
there? It's hard to say, The fans do give you that extra few gears in you, you know what I mean? When you are playing, they give you that little bit more drive. But where Liverpool are with the last few weeks with the games and stuff like that, they haven't been at their best. I do think Liverpool will turn up, I think, the weekend, But I do agree with Keith with halves. I think if they play that Rhys Williams and them, and Arnold seems to be getting more exposed when he don't have that leader kind of behind him, and they just seem to be getting in all the time down there. You see, even Callum Wilson against Newcastle, he just put the afterburners on Williams and just left him for dust, So I do agree with him that way. We do need to be solid at the back, and I do think he will play Joel Matip if he's fit, like, because they need someone there. Like, we do seem to struggle there, but with him and Fabinho, I think we'd be decent, So. Yeah, I do think Liverpool will be up for the weekend. I do think they will edge it over United, but I think United will sit in and try catch Liverpool on the break, like what other teams have been trying the last few weeks, And I do think that's the way to go if you want to try get something against Liverpool. I think United would be happy with a point at Anfield the weekend, put 4 points between the two teams. You know what I mean? So, but I do think Liverpool will show up. You see, we were talking about. Seeing you talking about with Spurs, I watched a bit of your podcast at the time. Liverpool were always want to edge Spurs, I think. They just seem to up years when it matters most, So I do think I do think Liverpool
I love it.
I do think they will matter when it matters most. They seem to turn up all the time, And you see with United in the last few games, no disrespect, when you played against City, when you need a result, you didn't show up, I do think Liverpool have a little bit more extra quality than United at the minute. But you have been doing very well, and I do think we can expose you at the back a small bit, That's just... it's going to be a tight game. I think it'll be 1-0, 2-1, maybe, it depends... You'll know with Liverpool after 10 minutes when you watch the game if it's going to be
100%.
If they're on it or not. After 10 minutes you'll see what Liverpool show up.
Yeah, like look, when you go to Anfield, I think the first 20 minutes against Liverpool at Anfield is crucial. Like Sir Alex done it for so many years. He used to always say to his teams, that first 20 minutes is crucial. You need to keep it 0-0 in them first 20 minutes. Because Liverpool, if they score one, they take it to the cleaners. If they get one early on, and I'm saying this is even years ago at Anfield, they'll get on top of you and they'll just take it to the cleaners. It's always been the way. So I think it's important for Manchester United that we stay compact in the first at least 20 minutes of the game, make sure we're still in the game. And as the game progresses, in-game management becomes very, very important. Because when you look at both teams' bench, I think Liverpool's starting 11, a fully fit team is probably superior to ours. The bench is
Yeah.
going to be massively important for Man United this weekend. I think the bench could play a part for us. When you look at the options we do have, like if we go with the team against Leeds that we played against Leeds, we've options like a Paul Pogba or Donny van de Beek and a Cavani to come off the bench if needs be. Like if we need to go a different route than a counter-attacking approach. But like I think it's a game that's I think it's a close game. For me, I feel like it's going to be a close game. The fine margins are going to be there on the weekend, and we won't get into them fine margins because we know what everyone's going to say in the comments in terms of what the margins are going to be in terms of referees and VAR and all that crack. All we want is a good game of football at the end of the day. We want to see just the rivalry continue. I'm just going to come back to the Liverpool side here. With regards to it, and I was going to come to you both on this because obviously you've both highlighted in terms of, you know, on your outlooks in this game in terms of like the defensive side of things. Like, are you any bit concerned with your defensive issues at the moment? Like, because you play such a high line, and you look at Manchester United's like counter-attacking ability when you have likes of Rashford, Greenwood, even though Greenwood probably start, but you've like Daniel James, you know, Bruno Fernandes, players like that who can transition the ball very quickly. Are you worried about like without Joe Gomez and Virgil van Dijk that might be a point of concern for Liverpool this week with Manchester United's counter-attacking abilities?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a concern. I mean, you don't want to play too much on it, but like I don't think people say Liverpool left themselves in this position by not signing a centre back in the summer. But Fabinho was the designated fourth choice centre back, and you can't have 6 top centre backs just in case you lose 2 to ACLs in a season. You know what I mean? You just can't do that. So Liverpool are in this position. They've lost their key centre backs. They play with a high line. They haven't adapted to, you know, when Nat Phillips, for example, he was slower than Reece Williams. When he goes into the centre of defence, they're not, you know, they're not taking it back 10 yards. They seem to be still pushing quite high up. Reece Williams as well. It's a dangerous game to play against a team with pace in United. But it's one that you have to have faith in your players and your team. And a lot of Liverpool fans are losing their shit because of the centre-back issue. Klopp's not being back. Klopp's not signing it. FSG are refusing to bring in a centre-back for Jurgen Klopp. Maybe Jurgen Klopp just fancies that these lads can do a game for him because his management style is built and based on you put it in for me and I'll reward you and I'll back you. If you don't put it in, you'll be out the door. So Klopp's probably happy with these options and we're making too much of a big deal of it. For example, Henderson could play centre-back very possibly, and he got lashed out of it. They said he didn't function against Southampton. Well, Danny Ings scored in the first minute off a mistake by Trent Alexander-Arnold. It wasn't down to Jordan Henderson and Fabinho playing centre-back. It was the full-back. It just really, really all depends. As Jack said, you can see in the first 10 minutes of any Liverpool game how it's going to pan out. And if Liverpool are on it and have a good, strong lineup, I think the class will show and Liverpool will win the game. But it's not to dismiss the threat of Man United. And the biggest the biggest concern I'd have from a Man United side, if I was a fan of United, is Solskjaer tactically good enough in big games to exploit? Because personally, I know he's got decent results against City last season a few times, but I haven't been impressed with him much this time. Do you know what I mean? I think he's in the Champions League, for example. Man United should have been easily guided into the knockout stages and were a bit naive. I think tactically, I think Solskjaer can be found wanting. I think against Man City a couple of weeks ago, I thought they were brutal. Do you know what I mean? I thought they started off decent, but died to death. I thought Bruno Fernandes was a bit anonymous in that as well, you know. So I understand United are in their position where they are, but they're beating teams they should beat. Now, I'm hoping this will be a tougher game for them. And I'm hoping that the addition of Thiago in the Liverpool midfield can change the whole Liverpool dynamic. Now, I could be clutching at straws by saying that, but I really think this is the time now. He's had a couple of cameos. He's had a couple of appearances here and there. This is his home debut. I'm hoping Thiago can be the difference maker on this and can nullify any threat of the Man United midfield. And if you can take, if Thiago can get the ball and Liverpool can bypass the United midfield and can put constant pressure on the back, I think we can take the threat of United. I think United, when they're comfortable enough on the back at the back, they can they can make their base to spring their attacks. I think Liverpool need to step up. Defensively is the key issue, but for me, we need to be on it in the front three. Air attack needs to be on it, because if air attack isn't on it, Joe Matip can come back and have a stormer and we won't win the game. So it really, all parts of the Liverpool team will focus on the defence, but every area has to be switched on. And that's more down to Liverpool than Man U. We could be playing Chelsea, we could be playing Spurs, we could be playing any of the big teams. And Liverpool just have to be on. And they haven't been. They haven't been in weeks.
Yeah, and Jack, do you share like the same feeling as Keith there with regards to that?
Yeah, I do. 100%. I think the front three, when we're not firing on all cylinders, them the three up top, we seem to struggle really. If one of them is off it, like they just seem to struggle to score. Like see, like Newcastle, you see Salah like 2 1-on-1s. He did one out of the two. We'd win that game 1-0, but they seem to be just struggling at the minute, and which is like you can't go 2 years in a row playing every game unbelievable. They're human at the end of the day. I don't want to have rough patches along, and it's how you get out of that rough patch. And I think they will find a way out of that, Liverpool. I think every team goes through a spell where things are just not going well for them. And you even reiterated there against Southampton, it was a world class goal from Danny Ings. How many strikers do that? It was an unbelievable finish, and they have something to hold on to then. And we're trying. We put 40 crosses in the box, but they're not really clear cut chances, are they? They're just being put in there. We didn't really have so many clear cut chances, and we just kept. We seem to. I think recently they've been trying to walk the ball into the goal. Sideways passes. They don't have that. Like Thiago, for example, that cutting edge where he just pick that little pass forward and he'll find something out of nothing. I think we need a little bit more of that, and I think Thiago will deliver. He's only going to get better with this Liverpool side as well.
It's a great point. Sorry, I'll just jump in there. It's a great point, because that zipped ball by Thiago that he does, that real ping, it's coming from central areas and it's getting zipped and it can open up defences. Whereas Liverpool, the way the teams are copping onto Liverpool was the threat comes from wide all the time. So Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andrew Robertson, teams were playing 3 centre-backs, doubling up on full-back, and it was nullifying the threat. Thiago's brought in to give something else. The last few weeks we've seen Jordan Henderson's been criminal at it, floating balls into the back post. Keepers are just picking up and taking it out of the air. It's no use to Liverpool to do that. So Thiago does offer that something different that you want them to open up, and you hope that the forward players can thrive on that. They've shown no signs of it yet, but this could be the game. No better game to do it.
Yeah, and I do with that floated cross, it kills your momentum as well if the keeper grabs it and he's just rolling it back out. Where Thiago kind of gives you the eyes where he's going to put it there, but he goes on into the forwards. You can't be. He's a serious player, So hopefully we see the best of him at Liverpool.
Yeah, and I was going to come to a question there, just come from Tim. Shout out to Tim. He does our clips for us, deal with the weekly armchair kickoff, and he's a great addition to this channel. He's some man, and he also done a fantastic video for Mark today as well. As well, a nice little edit for Mark as well, which was quite fantastic. I'm just going to come to Tim's question here. It's just for the two lads, Keith and Jack. It was actually one of the topics that we had for across the board, but we're going to address it now to Liverpool fans. He said, question for the Liverpool lads, if you could take one player in your team from Manchester United, who would it be?
Jack, go ahead.
I'd probably just take Bruno for what he's done since he's been in at United. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take any of the back four really. You know, if we were back four, I'm not going to take any of them. I probably would. It'd probably be Bruno. Like really, to be realistic, you're not going to break up the front three if they're firing on all cylinders. And realistically, if everyone is in the squad, probably Bruno. You know what I mean? That would be the only one I'd probably take anyway.
If you're going for who Man United's best player is, you say Bruno Fernandes,
Yeah.
but would he fit into a Klopp team, into a Liverpool team? I don't think he'd work hard enough, to be honest. It's not a dig at him. Some players do, some players don't. Liverpool's midfield are more functional than flair, and Bruno offers flair. Personally, I take Rashford and just get him in somewhere. Do you know what I mean? I take Rashford and just play him centre forward and play him wide.
I had the same thing. I had the same thing actually. I had a conversation with one of my work colleagues, just with regards to Liverpool and Bruno Fernandes, with regards to it. I actually agree with both of your points in terms of midfield. I wouldn't put him in Liverpool's midfield. I'd actually put him in Roberto Firmino's role in that false nine role, because he would do so much damage in that role that Firmino does, and his level of production is unbelievable. Just think about Liverpool's goal scoring if you had him in there instead of Firmino. And he does work. He is a hard working player. When you actually look at his stats for Manchester United in terms of like ground covered, he does a lot to come back in our team. Like when Paul Pogba isn't arsed, Bruno Fernandes is getting up and down that pitch. But the thing about it is, obviously, people only notice Bruno Fernandes' goal scoring ability and his assists. But like I actually agree with both of you, because Liverpool's midfield is all about kind of hard graft, win the ball back, get it to Salah and Mane. But when you look at that false nine role that Roberto Firmino plays, I think that's a role that Bruno Fernandes could actually play in Liverpool's team, because through the middle he creates so many chances for Salah and Mane. I think it'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, and then it's not just
I think
about
that
his goals and that. I think that like since Coutinho left Liverpool, that's someone to bend one in outside the box or something. He always just looks forward and tries to have a shot, or if it's he tries things, you know what I mean? And that's what I like about him. That like if something he really will try things, and we've been missing that I think since Coutinho left Liverpool.
yeah,
Someone,
he just has that X factor. Bruno does.
He certainly does have that X factor, and it's not that I'm saying I wouldn't take Bruno Fernandes. If I was managing Chelsea, I'd take Bruno Fernandes. Do you know what I mean? I just don't see him fitting into the club team, because I sort of disagree with you, Keane. I think the amount of work that Roberto Firmino does in centre forward is absolutely ridiculous, and it gets overshadowed by the lack of goals and all that. I don't think there's many. I think it's one of the hardest. Liverpool can struggle to replace that type of. When it comes to getting rid of Firmino, they're going to have to replace him with something totally different. Do you know what I mean? Because you're not going to get many forwards that will do the dirt that he does. You know, it's ridiculous. It's a sacrifice for the team. I think they'd have to go for a totally different player. But look, Bruno Fernandes is a great player, and I'm not trying to say I wouldn't take him. Or just for a Liverpool team, I would take Rashford, because I think he's more versatile and would do more positions.
yeah, no, I agree. But
And so
yeah, go on further ahead, Keane there.
no, I was just go on. What are you about to say, Jack?
No, I agree with what Keith is saying. You're not going to find another forward that does the work that Firmino does. It just don't happen with forwards. They don't seem to put in that graft that he's one of Klopp's players that he can't replace, really, I think, to be honest.
So just with regards and to this, I was actually gonna get to this actually later on in the show, but I'm actually gonna come to the two lads actually with this now, with this actually the same question that Tim's actually after posing. I actually, when I had it down the notes for the show, I had from a Man United perspective, if you could take two players from Liverpool's team to come into our starting 11, who would it be? Kevin, I'm going to come to you first of that.
Right. So one of the big problems I think Man United have is how we get no production from our fullbacks. Really, I mean, we're great defensively, really on the right with Wan-Bissaka, but you never see a good cross put in by Wan-Bissaka. Actually, let me correct that. You never see a cross put in by Wan-Bissaka, really. So I think I'd take both fullbacks is who I'd actually take. And because on the other side, Shaw is in a team, then it's Tellez, then it's back to Shaw, and there just doesn't seem to be any production from our fullbacks. That they're the two I'd take, definitely, no doubt about it.
Mark, from your side, what two Liverpool players would you take in our starting 11?
Um, well, obviously, if he was fit, Virgil van Dijk. I disagree about the fullbacks. I like them both as players. I think they're very good. I think Trent's brilliant going forward. I think he's a little bit suspect defensively. I'm just trying to find some stats here, sure. Sorry, I'm not being rude. And Robertson, I think he's very good going forward too, and actually much better defensively. But I really like Luke Shaw. I think he's very underrated. And I think he's been one of our most consistent performers. And I found the stats, so I'm going to read them out to you. So Luke Shaw, I'm on the Premier League left backs. 18 chances created, which is second in the league. 82.1% pass completion, which is third in the league. 14 accurate crosses, which is third in the league, and that crossing accuracy is 34.2%, which is first in the league. So he has been much better going forward, and that's because Rashford does not hug the channels, and he's allowing him to actually overlap as opposed to cut inside. And that was something that was a real problem, but he's not doing that so much now. Wan-Bissaka, I can agree with you. One of my best mates, Liverpool fan, we have discussions about Trent and Wan-Bissaka all the time. Um, Actually, one last stat: 73.7% take-ons completed. A success rate is first in the league. So something else too. But I've always said to him, if you look at the England team, obviously you're going to take both of them. And I think depending on how you want to set up, if you want to set up defensively, I would have Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I know he's been found out a little bit this season. His positional awareness is not as good, but he's young and it's something he's got to work on. But I really feel defensively he's very very good, and actually I think he's underrated when going forward, and that's something that he's obviously trying to work on. He's not as bad as what everybody says. I haven't got stats for you on that one, unfortunately, but I think I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Obviously, I'm biased, and I think if I was to play, if I wanted to set up from an attacking standpoint, I would take Trent all day long. I would still have Luke Shaw. If I wanted to play a more defensive game, I would have Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And to be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of Firmino. I understand that he does put in a lot of work, and he's obviously come into a bit of form recently. But I would have Cavani over him. I think, in respect to what you said, Keith, earlier, he gives something completely different to Martial and Rashford. They are not number nines; they are inside forwards. And Cavani, you can see that he can bring players out of position. He can spot the runs. He's actually quite quick, and I think this weekend I would start him because you're not playing Virgil van Dijk and possibly Matip. I feel that whilst the kids might be quick, I feel that obviously they're going to lack a little bit of experience. Now, whilst he might not be as quick as what he once was, his experience is like none other. And I really feel that he could create a huge amount of problems for you. But I think you're absolutely right with what you said. You'll know within the first 20 minutes with Liverpool, and I think that goes to the same with United. If United start sort of very slow, we know that probably for at least a half, that's the way it's going to go forward. But if we start quickly, which we have done a few more times, I think that we might actually have a good game. So it's going to be, you're right, in the first 20 minutes, and we will see. Um, with regards to our record last season, you're right. We were much better against the top four, and I think that's the big six even, and I think that's because we were playing counter-attacking football. But I think what's changed this year is we are trying to have a plan B and a different approach, and I think that that's not always helped us at times. So we'll just have to wait and see on Sunday, and any other players that I'd take? I would take Thiago. I think on his day, he's an absolute baller. For me, he's just a huge injury concern. I'm sure you'll agree with me, Jack. Um, and obviously, I love Mane and Salah. I think they're phenomenal players. And on current form, we're crying out for a right winger. So I'd take either one of those two. Um, maybe both, probably.
Yeah, and do you know what? I actually I agree with you. Like you actually just addressed two positions in Man United's team where I think this summer they're going to address. Firstly, defensive midfield. I have a different player as a defensive midfielder who I take from Liverpool though. I'd actually take Fabinho because when he plays defensive midfield, he's an absolute monster. I remember his like one
That
of his
is a
first games in
very
Liverpool.
Sorry to interrupt. That's a very, very good point. At the moment, we are the reason why we play a double pivot is because we either Ollie doesn't have a huge amount of um, trust in his back two, or it's because the holding midfielder can't play as a one. Matic is the only one in that team that can play as a lone holding midfielder. Now we know that he can't play more than 2 games a week, and obviously he played during the week, so he's not gonna feature. And we've been saying this on many shows, and Keane, you and I have spoken about this as well. A defensive midfielder is a huge must for us, and I was even saying the other night. Fabinho, he did what he was interested in coming to United, and I've always been so frustrated with that because I think he's phenomenal, and I totally forgot about him.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and I just about to allude to it there. One of his actual first games to Liverpool in Liverpool shirt was at Anfield against Manchester United. I remember the game very well. It's the game Shaqiri, I think, Shaqiri get a double in that game because I remember Gary, who was meant to be on tonight. We work in the same workplace, and he kept playing Shakira the next day in work on the Bluetooth speaker because Shaqiri's out there bagging the double against us. But just with regards to the actual game that Fabinho was one of his first games he played for Liverpool. I remember he dinked a lovely ball in over the top that day, and he just covered space um, all day that day. And like he's someone who I think, right, if you had a proper defensive midfielder in Manchester United squad, like a player like Fabinho, who's a monster, who can cover space and who can slot in between the two centre halves, like that, a destroyer, that frees up Bruno Fernandes. There's no defensive
It
mindset he has
frees
to
up
have.
the whole midfield. This is what we're crying out for, and
Yeah,
this is why we can't play 4-3-3 because we don't have that lone central defender. We can't push Pogba and Bruno further forward and know that we'll be okay. And that's
yeah,
the same with Van der Beek. Van der Beek, he's not a number 6 at the moment. He's number 8, probably a number 10. So I'm hoping that Ollie's going to sort of mould him into being one of those rotation, if not starters, for that sort of position. It would mean that we could be on the front foot a lot more because we'd have that cover for the defence, and then you play, as you say, Pogba's probably going to go, so it'll be Van der Beek and Bruno further forward, which will make us far more attacking team.
yeah. And I agree. Like you play a Van de Beek, you play a Bruno, or even the Pogba. Like like even though he's, as you said, he's probably gone. That's well documented, in that regard. But yeah, it frees us up to play a lot more attacking football. And as Keith said, like he actually alluded to, like Ollie sometimes in the big games plays a counter attack. You've a world class defensive midfielder in there. You do not have to play in the counter attack. You have the confidence in your defense, and you can give your attacking players freedom, like your Brunos, like your Rashfords, like your Martials, where look they can have all the freedom up front and not worry about the ball transitioning quickly and from defence to attack. So when you look at in that respect, defensive midfield is definitely a position. And the first player I'm going to pick from Liverpool is Fabinho. For me, I think he suits this squad 100% tenfold. Another position, obviously, I want to address, obviously, is right wing. I think, like Manchester United right wing, we've had that an issue in that position since Cristiano left the club. Even though Cristiano did drift from left to right, but we haven't had a proper right winger since he left. Now, people talk about Antonio Valencia. Yes, he done a decent job, but we haven't had a right winger, like a proper right winger. No, proper is a word Irish people use, but a proper right winger who can like go score goals, create chances, and just be that player. And I think when you look at right wing, you look at right wingers in world football. Mo Salah, I think, is just a player who Man United can definitely. If you had to pick another player from a position where United needs someone, Mo Salah would have been that player. Like he's someone who he has a level of production as well, similar to a Bruno Fernandes, where he's not having his greatest of games, he still bags a goal or an assist. I think that's something that Man United are missing on that side. I think too many years we've been trying to shoehorn players into that right wing position. You see it now. We're doing it with Rashford at the moment. We're playing Rashford as a right winger when he's a left sided player. So I think if you look at that right positions, like take a player from Liverpool, it'd be Mo Salah, because then that way we won't have to shoehorn Marcus Rashford onto a left wing. We can play Rashford in his natural position. In that regard. But like obviously, look, if Van Dijk was fit, lads, I think me, Mark, and Kevin can all agree collectively. If Van Dijk was fit, I wouldn't even take another player. I'd be like, look, just give us Van Dijk and we'll be all
Yeah.
right. Like, do you know what I mean? But when you all things considered, when you look on current form and when you look at kind of all things considered, yeah, like I suppose we had Memphis Depay and Mark said in the group there, kind of, and Zaha's right wingers. Yeah, I suppose, but even look at Zaha and Memphis, they both kind of they've went to the left side as well on strikers. When you look at kind of, I suppose, specialist right wingers, I think maybe, yeah, you can make a case of maybe Memphis and Wilfred Zaha were ball for that
I,
position. But I
I'm
think
not
when you look
sure.
at world class in the player
That
who we can shoehorn.
I'm not
I'm not
sure that
sure on
Ollie's
Memphis.
looking
Memphis was the
for.
left winger, really. I
No,
don't.
I would say that he was right, and I don't think Ollie's looking for an absolute right winger. I think at the moment he's trying to fit square pegs and round holes with Greenwood, and he's not a winger; he's a number 9. And I think he wanted Sancho, and I still believe that we would be interested in him in the summer. I really believe that because he can interchange with Rashford, Martial, and whoever's number 9 at the time, Cavani, whoever else, and can go on that left hand side as well. Because I don't think he's a fully fledged right winger. I think he plays on both sides, doesn't he?
Yeah, like I think for me, I think Man United, that's what we're missing is just a specialist right winger, though. For me, because like you look at all things considered, last few years, we've been shoehorning players, like you said, like a Greenwood out the right wing, Rashford out the right wing. Even in some respects, I think Martial a couple of times by Mourinho out there a couple of times to see if it would work, and obviously it didn't work. We also got Alexis Sanchez. Look, that's the biggest disaster post of Alex Ferguson. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that deal was just a joke. Two boys down below us, Joe will be laughing at us, like in that regard. Like, but like when you consider it, like I think right wing definitely. I think in the summer when you look at it, Man United will be looking at strengthening in that regard. Um, this is one point I'm going to come to. It's just come in the comments here from Tim as well. It's actually another topic. Tim must be reading my mind tonight, lads, because it's another and comment in United fans. And also, this question has been pointed towards Jack too. Um, Tim has just asked Jack, and I'm going to point this to Kevin and Mark also. Will United set up in a 3-5-2? Negate Liverpool's fullbacks, switch wing backs, get bodies in midfield with Martial questionable, maybe a front two. So, what do you think about that, Jack? Do you maybe see Manchester United going to a 3-5-2, considering Liverpool's
Yeah,
threat with Alexander Arnold, Andy Robertson?
yeah, I think they'll try notify the two fullbacks for Liverpool, and they'll put either Rashford in one side, and I agree with Keane. I think they will play James on the other side to try counter Liverpool if they win the ball back. Try counter attack Liverpool into them spaces where the two fullbacks left. So I do think United will play deep, sit in, and try catch Liverpool on the break. They've no other, like, they're not gonna, if they come out and try play Liverpool and try be attacking with Liverpool and go toe for toe with Liverpool, I think they'll be too open and Liverpool pick them off. I do think the only way recently anyways is to play against Liverpool is to sit in and try counter attack on Liverpool, and United have them players that counter attack on Liverpool.
Yeah, and like I agree. I think it's something we could see. It's either that or go to the same lineup we played against Leeds. It's one of the two. But I'm going to go to Kevin and Mark on this because it was something that I was actually I was going to pose to them with this same question. Like we've seen obviously, lads, that we've in the big games. You look at last season, you look at this season, that we've set up with a 3-5-2. And we've gone with like the two wing backs and Luke Shaw as left centre back. Do you maybe see this, Mark, as a system Ollie may go to this weekend, considering of Liverpool's threat with fullbacks? Because that, for me, you stop Liverpool's fullbacks. Like you look at the level of production of Trent and Andy Robertson, it's unbelievable. I think for me, you have to stop that. In my opinion, that's one of the biggest focus areas for me this weekend. Are you in the same boat? Do you maybe think that we do go with the back five?
I did suggest this the other day, and I do think that it's certainly a possibility. I still think he will line up with the back four. with Luke Shaw, and I still think they will do that because they want to have Scott and Fred to match the energy as you mentioned earlier. And then I think obviously Bruno will play further forward, Pogba on the left because he's been brilliant there the last few weeks. I think it would be a crying shame to leave Pogba out at the moment. And then obviously probably Rashford on the right and then Cavani in the middle. But if we did play a 3-5-2, which I did suggest the other day, I think obviously it would be Luke Shaw, Eric Bailly, and Maguire. And then I think you would have to play Fred on his own in the middle, not McTominay. And I think McTominay needs his hand held a little bit, and then that enables you to play both Pogba and um, Bruno further forward, and in that middle, and then obviously Tellers on the left, Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the right, and then Cavani and Rashford probably up top.
I do. If you're going back five, I want to see Pogba, Fernandes in midfield because I think we seen against Leipzig when we went to back five and then we went with Fred and McTominay in midfield. Actually, no, sorry, I'm lying. Fred was out that game because he was suspended against PSG. It was Matic and McTominay, and it was it was basically seven defenders. Do you know what I mean? And we got caught out in the first minute
Yeah,
by to a lazy set piece, and sure, look, we were 1-0 down, and sure, we were though we had a negative midfield. It was hard to kind of claw that back against Leipzig. So I actually, if we're going to back five, Mark, I'm actually in the same boat as you. You play your back five, you have enough defence there. You play Fred, who can come as well. He covers a lot of ground in midfield. He's a fantastic workhorse. And then you play your Pogba and your Fernandes, and at least then, at least if we're playing on the break, you have players in there who can transition the ball quickly and who can break Liverpool down. If we're looking to play a counter-attacking game, you play the two of them in there, and they're players who can, like on their day, can hurt anybody. I think that's very important. Kevin, are you in the same boat? Would you go with that yourself, or would you go maybe the diamond? I know the diamond has been talked about that maybe Man
Yeah.
United are planning on packing out their midfield this week. What would you play yourself in terms of systems?
It's quite interesting, and I think coming back to what you said earlier about the first 20 minutes being so important, that would be even more important if we had the back five, because I mean, God, if you go one down and you have a back five, you're not gonna. It's very hard to claw it back from that. So it's a really hard one to and it's is Martial going to be fit is a big question. I think if Martial is fit, we might go with the back four, but I think I can definitely see us with that back three to kind of press forward, and then yeah, Pogba on the left side of an attacking midfield, Bruno on the other, and Cavani up front would definitely be something with Fred for. I don't know if I call Fred a defensive midfielder or a midfielder. He's more of a guy who gets around, to play there on front of the tree. So yeah, I think it's going to be the back five, definitely.
Yeah, I think it could be something that we definitely could see this weekend because of Liverpool's the fullbacks. I think one thing we've seen in the Atletico Madrid game, especially, is how they played so narrow in defence. And their wingers worked really hard, even though they didn't play a back five. But what they did was basically the four defenders played like centre backs, and then like their wingers they bombed up and down to make sure that, though obviously Liverpool's fullbacks wouldn't be as effective. I think obviously like when you play against Liverpool, them fullbacks are a massive, massive, massive part of their attack. Now obviously they've this new dimension this season with Thiago, who's that creative player that they don't necessarily have to go to the fullbacks. So I suppose from Man United's perspective, as I said at the start of the show, we need to be switched on from minute one because they've more than one threat in the fullbacks getting into the two inverted forwards and Salah and Mane and then shoot. It's more than that. They have Thiago in there who can do a job. Wijnaldum as well as a player who can make late runs into the box and score goals. He's done it though over the years. So I think for Man United again, I know the away from home this year, we've obviously started slow and then came back in games. We can't afford that this week because like if Liverpool get one, as I said early on, they'll get up and they'll take it to the cleaners. So I think for us it's very important that we're on it from the first minute. So we're just at the end of the show now, guys, and so the most important part of the show, the score predictions for the weekend. I'm interested to hear everybody's predictions here. So I'm going to come to the boys down below me first. Keith, give us your score prediction for the weekend.
3-1 to Liverpool.
3-1 to Liverpool.
Yeah. But as we said already, it's dependent. If I see the team line up an hour beforehand and it's Nat Phillips playing a centre back and someone else has picked up an injury, I might have to revise that. But if Liverpool get a strong team out there, 3-1 Liverpool.
3-1 Liverpool. I'm going to come to you quickly, Jack. I'm going to come to you actually with Tim's question as well, just before I get your score prediction. There's a quick fire one. For the Liverpool lads, who would you rather have available, Diogo Jota or Joel Matip?
For this game? Oh,
yeah.
Joel Matip. Jesus Christ. Just give me a centre-back. Jota's been a huge loss.
Are you in the same boat, Jack? Would you rather have Matip as well?
Yeah, I would. We don't have we badly need a centre back. We can't be playing midfielders in there all the time, But Jota's been some loss for Liverpool too. Gave us something different as well. And he was
took the pressure
hitting,
off, didn't he?
Yeah, he was hitting form, and
shrewd signing by Liverpool.
He was being clinical in front of goal as well. And he was one of our front players that was actually really in form as well. So he's a big loss as well.
And if you had to give a score prediction for the weekend, Jack, what are you gonna go with?
I think it'll be 2-1 Liverpool.
2-1 Liverpool.
2-1.
So we've got 3-1 Liverpool from Keith, 2-1 Liverpool from Jack. So we're getting goals this weekend. So I'm going to come to Kevin next. Kevin, are you confident going into this weekend's game? Like as they say, we're unbeaten away from home this season in the Premier League. They're unbeaten at home. In the words of Conor, somebody's always got to go. For you, who's winning this game?
I'm sorry you're out, but United back 5, dirty game, 0-0. That's what it is.
Oh!
Yeah. Sorry, not
oh, you're going for a Jose Mourinho special there.
Yeah.
He's not too far
Mark,
off, I'd say.
Are you Mark, are you more confident than Kevin? Are we going to get a 0-0 draw? Are we going to get a Man United win? Or are you going to go a Liverpool win? What's your prediction?
My heart says 7-2. No. My heart says 2-1. But I think my head says it will be a draw. And actually, whilst I don't know whether it's going to be cagey or whether it's going to be free flowing. But I think that with both defensive frailties, perhaps, we might see a 2-2 draw as opposed to 1-1.
2-2. Geez, my bum would be flapping all game, lads, if that was a close game like that. Jesus Christ. For me, I'm going to go out on the limb here. I'm going to be the only one here who's actually going to predict a Manchester United win. I'm going to do it. This is probably going to be clipped up next week now for our FA Cup review, and I'll be taken to the cleaners. But I'm going to go a 2-1 Man United win. I'm going to go with my man El Matador, Edison Cavani, getting on the score sheet. And I'm sorry I have to predict this, but I have to predict the next one. Bruno Fernandes is going to score a penalty in front of the Kop, and it's going to be awarded by VAR in injury time. That's the bold prediction I'm going to give.
The foul will happen about 26 yards. 26 yards out from goal. Penalty.
Do you know what though, right? Like,
in all honesty, lads, as a serious question, the two boys have gone for a draw. Would you be happy with a draw in this game, considering that Liverpool are on their arse and it's a chance to end the home record that Liverpool have and to really cement yourselves? Like, a lot of people are saying this is a bigger game for Liverpool. I personally think it's a big one for Man U, because I think if Liverpool get beaten, I think Liverpool can regroup. I think if United get beaten, I think they can nearly fall away. I think they have to take advantage. I said earlier, I was on the show pre-Spurs, and it was the same thing. Spurs had a chance, and Liverpool just got back on top of them. Now, it's not trying to run down United. To be honest with you, I think City are the threat to everybody. I think Liverpool, United, forget about it. Liverpool have to improve. Man U, I said earlier, are at I think that there's not much more improving United can do. City are the threat in this. I think United really should be going for the jugular in this one. And would you be happy with a draw, lads?
Um, I would be happy with a draw, and don't get me wrong. Whilst I said that my head is a draw, I do feel that we will do well this weekend and we'll get a 2-1. It will be narrow.
Mm.
Um, I was saying this on another show the other night. This is at the beginning of the season, as United fans, we were probably questioning whether we would get top four. Okay, so now we're in this position, which a few months ago we'd snatched your hand off. We're in a fantastic position, and no one expected it. And I don't want to get carried away with it. Um, but I feel that we're here now. I do believe that we will be in the mix until the end of the season. I said this the other night. I feel that we really do need to prove a point. I'd absolutely love to beat Liverpool, due to the home and away records, and I'm sure you'll feel the same. And also I feel that we need to be able to have a better form at the bigger clubs at the moment, and I
Yeah.
feel that this would be the perfect. I think form and records go out the window in this game. Yeah, and I appreciate obviously Liverpool have been a much better team in the last few years, but as I said, I feel United are certainly capable of getting a win this weekend, and I think Ollie will have drummed it into them, and I would be happy with the draw, but I really feel that we can go on and win it, and it will be close for sure.
Yeah, this is the first time I think in a while in the past, I'd say 3 years now, that I think we can go to Anfield and really have a win as a proper objective here. But I still think it'll be a draw. And would I be happy with a draw? Probably so. Yeah, I'd be happy with a draw. But this is the first time now in about 3 year three a good few. I'm not sure really. But it's the first time in quite a while where we can go to Anfield and actually have. We can definitely win this game in our heads. Like, not Liverpool are way above us, which they have been unfortunately for the past 3 years.
Yeah, like look, I suppose like just to finish off that final point, like for me, before like the Burnley game, I said if you get 4 points out of Liverpool and Burnley, I'd be delighted with that because we're still atop the league, right? But when you consider Liverpool's home record over the 3 years, number one, that'd be fantastic to claw that, to get that right. That'd be to be the team that ended. That'd be great. Um, but also, right, you take into consideration we're 3 points clear now. I think for Man United, Keith said, for us to win this game, it'd be a statement to the rest of the teams that we're actually here. I think it'd be a statement for intent. We'd be 6 points clear at the top. That's very important. If we did win this game, that it shows that look, we have beaten a top team. We like, because we're our record against the top teams in the league hasn't been great this season. So for us to win the game would be very important, and that I went for a win because I think I've said that on my show this week. I've been on All for United. I've been on Adam's show. I've been on all the other shows this week. And what I've stamped in with this is that you go to Anfield and you be courageous. You go out there and you try to get the points. I think that's very important, and it is very important that we go and get these 3 points. Now, look, if we don't get the win and we get a draw, right? I'm not going to be disappointed. I'm not going to be screaming Ollie out as some other fans probably might like. Even though it'd be a good result, we'd be still top of the league. But at the end of the day, winning is the name of the game, and Liverpool are our biggest rivals. Liverpool fans will feel the same about us. You need to win this game. The bragging rights to have the bragging rights to win the game. Because I know if the 98th minute hits, Jack will be hitting me up on Messenger. Will win. Jack will be hitting me up on Messenger straight away. Do you know what I mean? His commiserations towards me. I know I've loads of Liverpool fan friends and family. Most of my family are actually Liverpool fans, believe it or not. Like my whole family are all fans. I'm like the outcast that's the United fan. So like for me, like I'll have to turn off my phone if we lose this game to win. Like so for me, there's no way out. Like you have to go and you have to win this game. So definitely 100% for Manchester United, and you go and you win the game. I think that's the most important thing. But that's the end of the show here tonight. I do thank the lads here. I thank Mark, I thank Kevin, I thank Keith, I thank Jack for all their fantastic points here tonight. And look, it's great to have the lads on. And as always, it's good to be on the United show every week and talk about the club we love as well. And look, just the end of the show, I'd like to let the lads give a shout out to their socials. So Mark, I'm just going to come to you first.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. It's been good fun. Nice to meet you all, boys. And obviously, you can see my Twitter handle in there. But go and follow All for United. Keane's part of that too, and also Elite Football Show. That's the two channels that I contribute to a lot.
And Kevin, on social media, where can our viewers and listeners catch you?
Nowhere. No, I don't have really. I'm not on Twitter or anything really, so
Dead right.
contribute
That's
to
no
this
bother.
nothing else really.
And Keith, where can people catch you?
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is there, Keith Plunker4, but you can also get me on at the LFC Day Trippers. We do shows maybe five nights a week, 10 o'clock usually. Put out as much content as we want, and as Mark said, like, thanks for having me on here as well, lads. It's good. It's great to meet you all, and it's good to, not to go on and be sort of. Some people go on and they just shout each other's opinions down, and it gets to a childish thing. It's good to be able to talk as rivals as well and say, look, you can have a dig. I've tried to throw a few digs. I'm not gonna lie, but without
I heard him, but I chose to ignore.
I didn't take the bait.
No, but without delving into, I think childish sort of nonsense, it's good to be able to go on rival shows and do that. So thanks for having me on here as well, lads. I appreciate it.
No problem at all, Keith. Thanks very much as well for coming on. And Jack, where can people find you on social media?
Twitter probably. Just go on JackDoc11 on Twitter. I'm not too active on it now, to be honest, but I have the old bit of banter with a few United lads on it, and that's basically it. Thanks for having me on as well, Keane, today, and nice to meet you boys as well.
Yeah, and absolutely thanks very much as well, Jack, for coming on. I'm just going to come to the final comment just before we end the show. Seki's in the house. Seki does the deluxe kits. Do catch him online. He does all the retro jerseys, all retro Liverpool and Manchester United jerseys. So do catch deluxe kits. He says, Keane, I want to see some Bruno propaganda. Seki, I think you have just come to the bit too late. I've already gave my prediction in terms of when Bruno Fernandes is going to score his goal. That's going to get clipped up. I don't want to say it again. But yeah, look, again, thanks for all lads for coming on. And look, we will catch you next week on the United show because, believe it or not, lads, we have Liverpool again in the FA Cup. So, it's great we'll be renewing this rivalry next week. And I'm saying fingers crossed, I am not eating my words next week. Touching wood as well. But look, thanks everyone for coming on. We'll be back next week. So do tune in for that. Cheers, lads.
Take care.
All right, thanks.
Good luck.